So, good morning, all better tune inners. Um, well, weather is starting to warm up here on the Goldie, which is awesome. Summer is on its way. It's starting to feel like summer already, and we're only just into spring. So 6 months, in fact 9 months, in fact 12 months really. We live on the Gold Coast, weather-wise, it's pretty damn good here. But summer's great. Everybody gets out and about, and it's that heading towards that great time of the year, reconnecting with friends, family, loved ones, and so on too for Christmas. Anyway, what are we talking about today? On the Better Tune In, we're doing an episode, as you know, it's called the Better Tune In because you better tune in, and because it's better to tune in, and it's all about frequency, right? And so I've been doing some stuff around frequency of the brain and how it operates. And of course, being all about optimal health means also, having an optimal, what I call the switch box, which is the part up in your head, apart from the eat, move, and sleep piece, the three-legged tripod, as I call it, or the three-legged stool. At the top, you've got the seat, and that's kind of like the metaphor for the brain. And so, how do you get into frequency? What is it about frequency in the brain? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because what it's about is that, like the body operates frequency, and Tesla and Einstein, as I said many times, have already said that everything in the universe is about frequency, energy, vibration. All of it, right? I'm not going to go into that. I've thrashed that enough times. But when we look at the brain and where it's operating, you've got a set of frequency bands in there. And it depends on the state that you're in and that, your subconscious is operating in. It's like looking out, analysing things, but it's also got its own little, apart from the reticular activation system, the radar outside scanning constantly, it's also, you've got those ruminating thoughts that are happening in the subconscious. Remember the prefrontal cortex piece, which is where we're consciously interpreting information and perception, and we're connecting for safety and for recognition point of view through the reticular activation system. Well, that can be interpreted different ways based on previous experiences and history that you have stored in the memory, which is right across the brain. And so when you're looking at how it's operating, you can actually analyze this with what they call an encephalograph. Now, that's great if you have a clinical research lab with that sort of equipment, but big announcement, you can now get those yourself. And I'm not talking about wearing that whole sort of hat thing with all the wires hanging off and the electrodes and, lying down on something like a gurney or whatever, but you can actually get one that looks like a headband. And I've got one that I've been trialing from the owner and co-founder of Focus Band. It is the Focus Band. And the Focus Band will show on, in fact, Henry, the founding, one of the co-founders, and he's been working on this for years, and he worked with golfers in the US, sports people in general, but golfers. Jason Day, you might know that name if you're an avid golfer. Guy was doing really well in practice and just screwing it up when game on. And as in, like, he was, when he was competing. And so they wanted to have a look at what was happening in his brain. And Henry, with the Focus Band, managed to make a connection because he was working with some other golfers, but managed to get to Jason because he'd helped some other lower profile golfers on being able to increase their performance. And this is graph, so it's numbers. I'm all about, the stuff you can measure, but I also don't close my mind off for the things that you can't yet, and if you ever will. But this stuff's measurable, so most people should be able to digest tolerate, and the B word, believe. But he shows the results, and it is remarkable. He spent half a day at my place going through the stuff. It was like 7, 8 hours. It felt like 5 minutes, right? I was so present and just chewing and soaking up all this information. I'm going to be connecting with again. And in fact, I've told him we're going to be doing an FB interview live. He's been super busy at the moment, as you are as an entrepreneur, and all the things that you do as an entrepreneur and building a business. I know that oh too well myself as a entrepreneur. But let's break down frequencies. So the way it works is we start with beta, tends to be the first one. Then you've got alpha. Then you've got theta. And then you've got delta. And then you've got gamma, right? And beta tends to be the one, when we're awake, we tend to operate in most of all. Now, you've heard me talk about HRV, heart rate variability. Well, Henry's invented an index of his own as focus bands index called BFV, brain frequency variability, right? Really cool. And he can measure that. Same way you can for heart rate variability, sort of in a way of showing, the efficiency and optimal sort of healthy frequency ranges that you operate within your brain. And so all these frequencies, and I've seen the app and I've meditated, and it's amazing how I know when I'm waking up in a funk, my brain's kind of all twisted up and I'm thinking about a whole lot of radical things. It could have been a bad dream that's got me triggered. Could have been an experience in the day. Could have been something I've thought about that I hadn't thought about before, that connected to some sort of memory, something from the past that kicked me off biochemically, put me into that HRV, heart rate variability, sympathetic state, because your nervous system can be sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic is when you're in a heightened state of fight or flight. See, this is all connected through the brain. And it's about managing your thoughts. Managing your thought patterns is what it's all about. And so when you're too big in beta, and he's got like low, mid, and I think it's high beta, so he breaks down the beta waves a fair bit. That's what we tend to be, and especially in the corporate world, for example, a lot of pressure. Anywhere there's a lot of pressure, and that tends to be that you're hit with a lot more things the higher in the hierarchy that you go within organizations, right? And particularly in the corporate world, because that's where I spent 28 years. And your heart rate variability reduces, right? You get a lower reading, which is not good, because it's an inverse relationship there, because you're becoming more sympathetic. And there's a good chance that there's a significant correlation that your beta frequency and activity there has significantly increased. And so now we can measure this using the focus band. Now, that's from the health perspective, because you don't want to be operating in beta all the time. Now, what helps that? Things like meditation, for example. Journaling, because the journaling is really going into the mind gym. The meditation's kind of like a recovery, it's sort of like settle, get focused, get into the right zone, wait till your body calms down and start pumping out all these sort of nervous type biochemicals, getting you ready for a fight to just cool the jets. And then journaling kind of gets you in the mental gym for doing the right practice for your brain. You'll review the day, you'll basically let it rest, be aware of certain thoughts, don't judge them, just know they're there, which means you're in a higher level of awareness, and then start focusing on your future, building a picture and start to project that new image onto the subconscious, right? And build that muscle until that becomes a regular thing. Now, with the focus band, you're moving into that state, right, which can be towards a state of flow. When you start to move from beta down to, let's say, alpha and theta, right? Around the alpha, theta, you're more receptive, you're more present. You're in the state of being present when you're there. But these all have to have a certain level of intensity, all these waves, to be coherent. So you've got to have a coherent waveform, and it shows you on one of the many apps that, and I know that these are all going to be merged, I think, in the future, but on one of the apps that Focus Band have, that I've been using for meditation, and then when I'm doing yoga, I've been starting yoga in a funk, and in the last 15 minutes, it's like I can just see all of a sudden my flow's increasing. So here's the other great thing, is that through meditation or through breath, so if you're during the day and you're at your desk, hoping you're not sitting down for too long, and you're moving every hour for a few minutes at least, not standing up, but actually moving around, that you can just take some deep breaths, and you can do a moment, is that little plus sign down on the right-hand side of your Oura ring, O-U-R-A. You can press that to do a quick moment check on your HRV. There's also other devices that I play with, but that's the one that's most convenient, most well-known, and most reputable. So, getting to a breath. So, all of a sudden going into meditative state while you're at your desk. Maybe you're a bit embarrassed about doing something like that. Or you can't get away to get a few minutes in one of those spare sort of meeting rooms. Then breath work, right? And you can even just do the basic box breathing, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, 5 seconds hold, 5 seconds in. So you just do this 5, 5, 5, and 5, right? Hence the box. And that'll calm things down. That should get you back into that sort of more alpha and theta state where you're present, and the best state to learn. Now, I know as a kid, I would be very much in sympathetic mode. Even today, I'd like to continue to improve my listening skills, but you've got to be present to do that. If you're in a feeling of anxiety or that panic, you're in sympathetic mode from a HRV point of view, and you're going to be in a heavy beta state, right? As a result, probably from a brain frequency point of view, and hence your brain frequency variability. So, getting into flow, you want to be in that alpha theta state as much as possible, and the amount of energy as well. So it measures. You could be in a coherent state, right, with all the frequencies lined up nicely for you to be most efficient and getting into flow. But then the amount of energy, because you could be using up a whole lot of energy in that state that you didn't need to. So it also measures the energy level to be in that flow to achieve same. Right, pretty cool, huh? Because it's all about frequency and energy. Do you see where I'm going with this? That everything is about frequency, and at the end of the day, managing energy. Right? Not time, not so much money. Sure, time's just a man-made construct. I won't go into the spiritual side here right now about time, but about managing energy. And so this device is the most amazing I've seen yet that is generally available. And we're going to be interviewing Henry to learn a lot more about it, and how this can help people, not just sports elite, which he has helped over in the US for a number of years. We're now looking at what also can be done with other people on the planet. You look at corporates, for example, and what can be done there. And getting group flow, which is becoming the thing now in the funky companies, like Facebook and Google and the more millennial type companies, is how do you get into that state of flow individually, but also in group flow. You may have heard of the book, was it Stealing Fire, which was put on to me by a very good friend who in fact works at Facebook. Anthony, calling you out there. So guys, that's about it. Some great stuff. Just wanted to give you the heads up on that one, and that we're now looking at frequency in the brain, and we're going to be playing with that as well as frequency medicine overall. This stuff is going to be becoming mainstream. It's hitting the market. It's going to be a lot of disruption. I think it's going to have the same impact that the cloud did on the IT industry. In fact, interestingly, how that's now become pervasive you know, through things like Amazon Web Services. I used to work there a few years ago, and the fact that all that computing power now you can just go and rent, and all that storage you can go and rent it, and it disrupted the whole IT industry. I was right in the middle of it, and I was out there actually spruiking on this new model called, in fact then it was software as a service and what they call platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. Now they call it the cloud, right? I see this having the same impact. Everything around frequency and frequency medicine and optimization, all with frequency, energy, and vibration, same as Tesla and Einstein talked about, is going to create a disruption. It's been there for so long, right? Things happened that kind of buried it, but it's emerging and it's here to stay. And I think it's now coming at rapid speed. In fact, I've even got my little there it is, my little Healy on there. I'm running a protection program right now on frequency. That has become a mainstay. Interesting experiences I've been having with that. That's a topic for another Better Tune In. So I'm going to leave you folks. If you want to learn any more, you can ping me a note, an email on letsconnect@tommygallant.com, or let's hook up here on Messenger, whichever platform this is going out to, because it's StreamYard that I'm using. Great tool. And biotechexec.net for the corporate former, or the corporate athlete, I should say, and all the tools and everything around eating, moving, sleeping, and thinking right lives in the Biotech Exec program. And you can go on there and you can do takes just a few minutes to do a little survey that entitles you to 20 to 30 minutes with yours truly on a health optimization, wellness optimization call. So have a great day. We'll speak soon, I'm sure. All right, and we're getting battery going on here. And there we go. All right, guys. Have a great night, morning, day, whatever you're doing. Speak to you soon.